B-Bad and Brandon.
I've learned a very valuable lesson today, and that is you need to plug things in. That is my biggest lesson. I can tell you the camera problems were 100% related to one of the USB adapters not being all the way into its hole, and the computer turned off because it also likes to be plugged into power.
How dare technology need a power supply?
I know, it's very unfair, and I wasn't prepared for that. I blame Brando, my fine co-host, who is in the photo up here, unfortunately not with us today, but how you doing? I am Johnny B-Bad, and you are officially...
Mariah. Mariah Jean.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Sick. So we are very loose, and by we, I mean I, because Brando's not here, in a system of questions, and the only real one we have is we give you the opportunity to explain who you are and what you do by using words and or sounds if you like, and you only are allowed 21 of them. I'm going to count, and let's find out who you are and what you do.
Okay. Wow. I feel like 21 words is I should.
Or sounds.
Or sounds. Just grunts.
Yep.
I could possibly speak in grunts if you prefer.
Some people stress and grunt. That's funny. We like to count them.
That's a great way to start a podcast. I'm Mariah Jean, or that's my first and middle name. So I am a sports nutritionist and national figure champion, double pro athlete, and a fully booked online coach.
I think you got one left.
Yay. I love
it.
I love a good yay.
Yeah, yay works good.
Yeah.
That's a lot in 21 words. Sports nutritionist, double pro, and a incredible community of athletes that you coach and look after as well.
Indeed.
That, if I'm not wrong, just finished competing.
Yeah. So obviously we do the 2 seasons yearly, and we just had season B come through. It was a record number of shows, placings. Wow. The list goes on as to what we achieved the last season. So I'm absolutely stoked.
Yeah, I can see to your left a lot of trophies and a sword.
Oh, this is every podcast. People see this. I actually do it on purpose. I put the camera because I feel like this is a topic of discussion. It's actually a lot bigger than what it looks like back there.
Yeah, it looks like you could hurt someone with that.
Oh yeah, no, it's real. Like the tip of it is sharp. So yeah.
Damn.
It's a great house weapon. It's about all it does.
Yeah, well, that's it's a house sword. It can be used to display your winnings, or also hurting people who shouldn't be in your house.
Yeah, I mean, either one, you get to decide.
And that's all your own collection in there, or is that from your clients?
It is indeed from mine. If it was my clients, I'd have no room. We got 50 placings this season, so I couldn't put all of them from every season in my closet. There's some Australian medals down there as well, all lined up. There's some more crowns there for overall sashes. I've got 3 sashes there for 3 overall titles. And down the bottom is actually, you can't really see. I'll move my speaker. See those? They're like little A4s. They're frames. There's about, I don't know, maybe 30 of them. I don't know how many there are there. And that's all my first places for my clients. So that's what I get to take home for each place. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Running out of room there too, so I don't really know what I'm going to do next season, but...
We could probably consider it a good problem to have.
Yeah, it's a quiet confidence. So...
Yeah. I like it. So where did it all start for you? Where did the passion and desire to get into like competitive bodybuilding figure sort of stuff just for yourself?
Weirdly, I have been training for 10 years myself in gyms, and I trained, split programs back when it wasn't cool. So I came from a country town. I'm from Bundaberg. I really don't like saying that, but yeah. And when I was there, it had to be out of passion that you even went into a gym as a female to do split training, because I was part of a very small minority of women who were doing what I was doing. And I think even the first probably 2 or 3 years of doing that, I had a lot of people comment saying that I should compete in bodybuilding. And I actually, I hated it. I hated being called a bodybuilder. I was really against the whole culture. I thought it was vulgar. And just, I wouldn't say, I think it was just beyond what I thought I was capable of. And it sounds so odd now saying it like that. But anyway, so I kept it as a hobby and never wanted to cross over my fitness into my career. It was just one of those things where, look at me now. It's my whole life. But I didn't.
It's your everything.
Yeah, I didn't compete for years, like 7 years of training. And
did you have a goal at the time for your training, or was it just because you enjoyed going to the gym and
just
moving some kilos around? And
it was never ever from a position of being ready for a show. It was never from a position of. I used to do swimsuit competitions when I was in Bundaberg, and I would rock up to those, and they told me that I was too muscular, like almost every time.
Oh no!
Yeah, and they were like, "You've got too
I would
much
love
muscle.
to be told I was too muscular.
You've got too much muscle. You need to do a bodybuilding show." And I refused to accept that. I think it was for me this pure denial of, I guess, what my strength was, and it was obviously moving up, not moving. I thought it was like a step back for a female. So it took a lot for me to embrace my muscle and to just go, oh, you know what, genetically, but also from like a motivational standpoint, I am capable of doing this. I am very dedicated. I'm very driven. It is my happy place, going to the gym. So, I guess what happened was the turning point was 7 years into my training. I was also 7 years into a DV relationship, which I'm very comfortable talking about now. And that kind of came to a massive head and was really quite frightening as to how it all came about, towards the end. And in that final year of it all, sinking really badly, I realized I was, free from that position of having to do what that person told me. And they often said, I never want you competing because it's a very egotistical thing to do, even though they'd competed. So, so it was okay for that person, but not for me. So I decided the double standards were bullshit, and I immediately planned a prep for myself with Stuart Brooks. So he is probably well known. Yeah, Stu. Yeah, he was my first and only coach. So that's
no way.
Yeah, I approached him and I said, "You're the only person I trust to put me through this. We're very close." And that was it. From there. So it was that, and I did a 16.
And do you remember your first comp?
And what's that?
Do you remember your first comp?
I do very well, very, very well. My first comp was in 2019, so you can imagine it's pretty fresh in my mind. That's how I got the sword. It was my first comp.
First comp.
Yeah. I took out first time I was on stage. I got first place in my novice division, and then, that was, I cried from that because I was like, okay, I'm done now. Bye. I didn't expect.
Yeah, maybe all those people that were saying you should do bodybuilding might have been right.
I think so. Yeah. All along, I feel like they were right. Yes, and it wasn't an insult. I think back then I took it to be something that was, especially from that small country town, it was almost frowned upon to be a bodybuilder.
Yeah. Damn. And then after that was there a realizing moment then, once you've won that thing, that this is for you, I might do something with this?
Absolutely. From there, it really looked like getting a lot of unexpected attention. I wasn't well known in the fitness industry at all. I was just this girl who liked training, and that was it. I did work for Lorna Jane for a few years, so I was probably more well known in that space, in the professional sense. But really, it lit the fire for me. Competing and doing bodybuilding for me now is my life. And I think from that experience and taking home the win, it's so unexpectedly as well. I know a lot of people say that, but I really did not expect to win anything. So it was a massive, massive shock. And to go into figure as well, the top of the pile, not to be at bikini, but to go all the way up to figure for the first time was seemingly unheard of. Yeah. So
I was about to say, I don't know a lot about the sport, but that's not common to go straight into figure, because that's quite a challenging division, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely. You will see, and certainly from your community, you'll see a crossover from powerlifting into bodybuilding, where you'll see someone who's been powerlifting for years and then they will compete in bodybuilding. But there's not often someone who hasn't done anything and who's just trained and just gone straight into a competition. So I gained a ton of sponsors in the beginning from that show.
Oh,
Yeah, they just all
yeah.
flopped. I had one of my original was International Protein, a
Yep.
Gym Gymwear, who I've been with for quite a few years now. I actually helped them launch their company and their brand. And yeah, it was really surreal, things like getting my Botox for free and all sorts of really
Yep.
strange things that I just didn't expect. Lots of free
Yeah,
products.
I was going to say, was it a strange feeling all of a sudden all these people are like, hey, we'd like you to represent us and here's some either money or some things for that.
Yes. Yeah, I often questioned it. I think I had that kind of imposter syndrome where it was, are you
Yep.
sure you want it to be me? Like, are you sure I'm the athlete you want to sponsor? So
Yep.
it was surreal. And I think as well, I like to think that I haven't changed as much since then, because I think the problem with
Yep.
sponsorships and getting to a stage where you're being recognized is people let it go to their heads, and they think they're somebody special or important. And I don't see myself as that at all. Like, my position in people's lives is to help them and is to make a difference. It's not to be a somebody.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you feel any extra pressure once you had sponsorship like that?
Yes. And still do to this day. It's
Yeah.
an odd feeling being in a position. And look, this isn't from a standpoint of thinking I'm anything special, because I know that I even tell people to this day, like, oh, people say you're well known, or so and so knows who you are, and all this type of stuff. And I literally reply, I'm a drop in the ocean. There are lots of people who don't know who I am. There are hundreds of thousands of millions of people who will never even speak. Like, it's not about being known, and I have to stress that. But the pressure of that field, and also people walking up to me and saying things like, oh, I was meant to start coaching with you, or, I'm just going to delay for a couple of weeks, and in person, out in public. I had the experience at WBFF. I was standing there and just having a chat with someone I knew, and within the space of 20 minutes, 7 people had walked up the stairs who recognized my face or knew me, or that I'd met in person. And it's hard, because I'm not, weirdly, on social media, I come across as a very extroverted person, because you have to be.
Quite enjoy your social media. Very funny.
I like to crack a funny every now and then, but I'm not. I'm highly introverted. I am highly introverted. I don't tell my clients this much, and I certainly probably don't tell the public how introverted I am. But I've got a very outgoing personality. We can have a chat for ages.
Yep.
But I get very overwhelmed if I'm around people all the time or for too long, and I just want to go home. I don't want to be in other people's spaces. I don't want people in my space.
Yep.
So it is hard. It's hard because you feel like you have to not just perform as in, my passion is obviously something I'm going to go to the gym every day, or, 5 to 6 days a week. That's a no-brainer. But it's probably more so your persona. You feel like that you have to, even when you're aging or you're going through different struggles in your own life, that you have to keep up this persona, and that you can't be human. And it's hard. It's hard because you try to practice that.
Be on.
Yeah. It's that.
Got to be on all the time.
Yes, being on all the time is certainly something that I can relate to. Yep.
Yeah, 100%. And did you you obviously would have found it a little bit challenging then to sort of, move into the social media space and put yourself out there, and, be in front of bigger groups and do all that stuff. Did you find that was like a real challenge for yourself?
I think certainly the realm of social media was that after my competition, I think I had like 1,000 followers or something at that before, and then it went to 5,000 followers, and then it went to, just like overnight. It was crazy. I had 5,000 people watching my story when I was at the show, and it was it was actually really odd having this experience and going, oh my God, how much of this is people who, and I think as well, it got into my head, how many people are fans and how many people don't like me. There was this really strange divide of, are you watching me as a hater or a supporter? Like, you get really tied up in that. But I think coming into social media, the world of social media is certainly, it's a double-edged sword. So you have all these benefits of exposure, and you can get your word out there and your message out there, and it's all about being certainly genuine, and that's kind of my approach with social media, is what you see is actually what you get. It's the balance of beauty and grace, but also being a little bit silly. So it was hard because I never wanted it to get to the point where my life and my career was based around social media. I didn't want that. I wanted to be able to work without it, and it's just not possible,
Yeah.
as we know these days. We just can't do that. So
Yeah.
that's the part I don't like.
It'd be impossible to not exist and do this stuff without that space. Like, I know even just on our scale as a podcast, like, we would not reach the audience, or even I would not even be able to find contact with people like yourself if it didn't exist.
Correct. There's a lot of benefits to social media. I think certainly that you can reach a larger platform, a larger group of people as well. That you can meet people that you never thought you would have met in in real life. It's kind of the same as dating apps and things like that too. Like, imagine dating back in the day where we didn't have technology, and you just end up marrying some numpty, and then
Yeah, your neighbour.
well,
Your neighbour, because you didn't realize maybe the next suburb there was a really nice person.
I'm stuck with you now because my mother said
this one will do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think it's a double-edged sword. I think that the negative side of it, that the hard side of it, is certainly it takes a lot of self-control. It takes pulling yourself away from it. I sign out of socials every few hours actually to take myself out of that world, and I turn off all my notifications on my phone. Like, if I could give anybody a tip to desensitize yourself and just get rid of that like overstimulation, change my life. No notifications, none.
Perfect. I quite like I call it moon mode on the iPhone, where you push the moon button and the phone gives you nothing.
The do not disturb, yes, love it. Moon mode.
Yeah. There's only two people. Well, there's three people that can break it, and that's my partner, my mum, and a friend of mine. And that's it. No one else can get through that impenetrable wall.
I certainly think that coaches, like, you'd be able to relate to this, that everyday people who only, for example, you're the only person they might speak to in the day outside of their immediate family, they don't get that if they are, there all the time and they're very reliant on you, that there's also 60 other people who do the same thing. And so we end up with a wave, right? Like, it's a wave of communication. And it's, I woke up this morning to 24 Instagram inboxes, and then there's like 12 on Trainer Eyes, and there's like 20 in Facebook. And for an introvert who just wants to have a morning coffee and relax for a little bit, it's a lot.
We'll just put that over here for a little bit. We'll get it later.
Yeah, I'll deal with it.
One of my hot tips is that I like to do a lot of my messaging outside of during sleep hours.
Yeah.
So when people are sleeping, I do a bit of moonlighting with some security at a hospital. So when I get a break at 1 in the morning or 2 in the morning, I'll drive a lot of online content towards online clients because I know they're asleep.
I can fully relate. People ask me why they get messages from me at 1 a.m. in the morning, or why I'm sending through an update at 1 o'clock in the morning or midnight. I would liken it to having children. It's the only time that you can get something done without being interrupted. So it's logical for me. It's not great for my sleep patterns, obviously, because I end up sleeping in. But I mean, when you work for yourself, it's you can work your own hours. So it's one of the very small complaints I have, is the fact that we have to be very flexible with our hours, even though we try not to be. Yeah,
100%. Because you've crossed into 100% online sort of world for yourself
years ago,
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I know, talking to T, who's one of your clients and does some powerlifting with me, she was telling me, like, back in the day she did some stuff with you, and then you've set yourself up the coast, if I'm not wrong.
Correct.
What was that transition like? Because I guess even myself, relatable, it could be a bit nerve-wracking to step away from being, let's call it, on the tools and being away from everyone and just doing online 100%.
Weirdly, I actually started with online, so it was quite easy for me to go fully online. When I first started practicing 5-6 years ago, it was people coming to me and approaching me and saying, "Hey, can you do this for me? I know that you do well for yourself." And it was just a bit of a side project. So because I lived in Brisbane, and a lot of my friends were from Bundaberg, I had to do online work, because it was like, okay, this is forcing me to put that extra effort in and go ahead and go, okay, well, I can't do this in person with you. I can't train you in person. I can't, take you through the ropes in person. How can I do this where it's fully delivered online? So, I think with regards to making the full transition to online, from doing PT in the gyms, it was hard to let go of PT sessions. I wasn't doing that many, like I really wasn't, but I didn't like PT. I liked it because it meant I could interact with people. I didn't like the fact that I had to be somewhere at a certain time. I didn't like the fact that I had to just show up on time all the time on someone else's clock. I know that sounds really odd, but sometimes I'm not in the mood to people. I'm not in the mood to have a D&M with somebody, and I didn't like the fact that I had to. I was forced into that position. So I think with online, it's great because you can choose when you are and aren't okay to talk. So that was it was an easy decision for me, but certainly, yes, nerve-wracking because I was worried that the income would drop, that maybe I wouldn't be able to make up the clients. But of the amount of clients I had online previously when I was doing half, I doubled that. I doubled the amount of clients I had. So not only did I make up for the PT, but I actually surpassed that, and it's gone above what I was doing before with PT sessions included.
Yep.
Yeah.
How cool is that? And even just to go back a little bit, even like you at the time when you first competed for yourself, were you coaching or helping people with figure and stuff? How did you go about getting your first client, and what made you like, hang on a minute, I'm pretty good at this, maybe I can help other people?
Not with figure. I didn't do figure.
Yep.
But I had a bikini client approach me. It's all been people come to me. Hand on my heart, the entire time I've been a coach, I have never approached somebody to coach them.
Yeah, nice.
I've never, and I know that it's probably not something to brag about because a lot of people maybe they do go out and they go, hey, you'd be great with this. What have you thought about coaching? It's been nonstop since I launched roughly 2018, 2019, getting quite serious into things and not just being a side hustle. It's been nonstop. I've had people coming at me constantly, and I've not needed to chase people. So it wasn't necessarily a case of me going, you know what, I'm going to become a coach and I'm going to go and look for clients. It happened in reverse, where clients found me and I was forced into that position, and I had
forced you to train them.
How dare they? I had to.
You might be good.
I might be. I don't know. But I had to start to believe that, because at the time.
Yeah, that's the tricky part, right? If you got these people wanting to ask you for help, but at the time you're probably like, why are they asking me?
I had 3 girls for my first comp season, so it wasn't even 1, it was 3, and it was right after I competed. So yeah, and they approached me, and I was like, "Don't you want to use my coach?" And they were like, "No, I want you." So
yeah, like this part, real good.
And it was great. Like, I got a first place with my girl when she competed for the first time, and I was prepping girls. And obviously my other girl, she got a second as well. And another one, she just wanted to compete. So it was a great result for a first season. And then obviously building up to now 50 placings in a season is going from, say, like 2 or 3 placings in my first season to 50 in this season. Also winning an overall title, I think it's like 6 or 7 seasons. I've taken an overall title every single season except one. So, just one season, which was my first season. So, sometimes we've taken 2, or I've taken 2. Yeah, no big deal. I had one client take out 2 overall titles in one show, and she's incredible. Like, if you ever want to know of an athlete that I just was like a unicorn. Anyways, she took out classic figure and sports in ICN in the same show. She was a chameleon. She could just chameleon to all sorts of different. I could have put her in fitness and she probably would have won fitness as well. Like,
she could win that too.
She had a ridiculously balanced physique and this incredible ability, because she was an ex-gymnast. It's incredible ability to adapt herself across the different styles of posing. So I've never seen a physique like hers where it was just this perfect X shape and completely proportionate and completely conditioned in the right way, not too lean. It was mind-blowing seeing that come out of a person who had also never competed before. Yeah.
And when you pick up a client like her or anyone, can you see what the package could be in the 12, 16, 24, 32, whatever many weeks it is, what it could be, and you're like, we could fucking do this.
Even with 10 or 15, 20 kilos of body fat needing to lose that amount, you can see the shape. You get very good at, it's kind of like seeing a piece of clay as an artist and going, I can make something out of that. And it's not it's funny too, because I say that it sounds very egotistical. It's not I can make something, it's the person can, but I would liken
Yeah.
it to being an artist in that you
Yep.
see people's potential, and when they do come to you
Yep.
and they say, oh, I think I might want to compete, if they have a body type, and I've got one at the moment this season, two actually, who are very humble and very sweet. One's come from a powerlifting background as well, and
Yep.
I've seen their scans, I've seen their photos, and I'm like, I can see your solid
Yep.
muscle mass under there. This is so exciting.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's because we know how hard it is to build muscle mass, especially for women. When you've got one that comes to you and you've got a few tweaks to make, it's just a case of getting their mentality right, and that's it,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Then they're good to go. And that was going to be, I've even written down this one. I don't write many questions, but one. How do you see a bit of crossover between bodybuilding and powerlifting? And do you think there's some opportunities to learn or benefit from either sport crossing into each other?
Absolutely. I think that I actually think the benefits, you can always see the benefits, the pros and cons of each sport. But I certainly think that for a long time we've operated very separately to each other, and we need to come together, because one thing I see with
both lifting weights.
Correct, exactly. Like, that's all we're doing. It's like, but obviously, you've got a power base versus like progressive overload, being slightly different. But I do think that powerlifting is fantastic for things like helping teach people their form, and things like time under tension as well, understanding mind to muscle connection, that type of thing, which I think can be lost in the bodybuilding world because people just rush through their workouts, and when you've got high reps to work with, it can sometimes be a bit messy as well. It's not like there's much more, attention paid to detail. When you're doing powerlifting, you can't fuck up, like you've got a couple of reps. Like, if you screw those up, you know that you need to go back to the drawing board. So I think that they're definitely different, completely different. And I'm going to call them sports because powerlifting is absolutely a sport. We know that bodybuilding, it's up for debate because it's very subjective. But I think that with powerlifting, we end up with women, and we've seen this, and men, that have these frames that have enough muscle mass to then put them into a bodybuilding show. I do find that obviously when they come to a coach, there's a few things to tweak, right? Because your sole purpose wasn't to have capped shoulders in a powerlifting, sense. It's like, it's not aesthetic. It's not, it's performance based. So, however, it's very little. I found that most powerlifters that come to me, it's not a lot of work that we have to do, because you've done all of your groundwork with your major, your prime movers. Your legs are always jacked, and and you've got these amazing V tapers as well because of the requirement of lap development. So I think it's certainly something that needs to be respected. Yeah, teeny arms. But it needs to, look, honestly, in women's bodybuilding, we don't need massive arms. Like, it's, so, but I really do think it needs to be respected across the sports. Also, one thing I don't see enough of is sports nutritionists diving into the realm of powerlifting programming, because I also had Onika. I don't know whether Onika was with you guys. I know whether you remember little Onika. She was one of the,
I don't know if I saw her.
Little powerhouse. Yeah, she's lovely. So she's like 5'0", and she sorry, my laptop's deciding to die on me. She's 5'0", and she did a bodybuilding show and then went to powerlifting and loved it, and did the same thing that T did. But what I'm seeing a lot of is that, people are going into their powerlifting meets, and it's like, what have you eaten today? Or what did you eat yesterday? And, do you have proper programmed carbohydrates and macronutrient breakdowns? And is your fiber, are you doing a low residue diet? And they're like, Powerade. And it's like, oh shit.
Lollies.
Yeah.
I eat lollies.
We know, like, we know that carbs are a fantastic, fuel source, like the substrate used, the CHO for power. But I do find that it's hit and miss with how programmed it is and how specific it is. So there's
100%.
There's a missing link there. And I think from the bodybuilding realm as well, there's a missing link with respect to things like developing your 1RM, your 2RM, your 3RM, to then understand how to build on that for progressive overload.
Because would you suggest, like, even in a bodybuilding program, there is space depending on when the prep is to be playing around with some heavier stuff?
Absolutely.
Or do you typically like to coach and move away from that sort of stuff?
I may go on about bashing don't train like a powerlifter when you're a bodybuilder, but that's probably more so in the prep. We're looking at risk versus reward during a prep, right? So when we've got depletion of carbohydrates, and we know that's a natural thing, it's not, we're not going keto or anything, but when we start to run out of calories to work with, we've taken all our diet breaks and we are running out of that, the adaptations have kicked in. We don't have as much in the way of carbohydrates. The issue with
Mm.
lower carbohydrates, those types of diets for prolonged periods of time, is that if you can't remember your keys, if you're locking yourself out of your house constantly, how do you expect to perform properly in a movement, right? In a high risk movement, it's just not. It's
Big
not
heavy
going to
one.
happen. So
Yeah, absolutely.
fatigue sets in, energy availability drops, and we see that. And I think certainly that there is a time and place for practicing your 1 to 3 RM rep range, and I think it's outside of a cut down phase. I think when you're pumping them full of calories, and I've got some of my girls on 3,600 calories a day, like they're eating
That's
a
amazing.
lot of food. Yeah, it's not
That's
a starvation contest, right? So when they're eating this much food, I think, yes, absolutely, we can start to practice that. And I think it's wonderful for people's headspaces. It's wonderful for their self-esteem. Like, there is no better feeling than pushing a heavy weight off you or, lifting one up, especially as a female, because you feel unstoppable. So I do think there is a space there. It's certainly a missing link there as well, where, and we practice.
But the strength training component and adding it to bodybuilding, it must be nice for the athletes to have a metric that doesn't based on physical, look and scale weight at certain times of their prep as well.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think that removing that component gives people a freedom from this. And that was exactly the other. There was another thought I had floating around in my mind, which was certainly that the major flaw with bodybuilding is that if you currently have any sort of self-esteem issues, and if you have any sort of insecurities, they are amplified in a bodybuilding show. And you can become incredibly obsessive with the way that you look and your conditioning and your weight. And I think weight is certainly something I work quite deeply with my clients on in prep, to be less weight focused, because at the end of the day, the judges don't know how much you weigh. They've got no idea what your in-body scan said. They know what you look like and they know what you're coming to stage with. So photographs are the best thing to use for that, especially with women. The weight fluctuation through the hormonal cycle is insane. So
it's ridiculous.
I think that, I think for powerlifting, and I've noticed as well that there is a major shift from their physique focus over to their performance, and I love that. Like, I actually love that for women, because the downside of being a bodybuilding coach is that women become, and you see it in prep, they become so obsessed to the point where you've actually got to slap them in the face sometimes and say, hey, you've got to stop. This is getting toxic. And I don't know whether you see that as much with powerlifting. Maybe they do. There's a bit of sports psychology there.
We'll see a little bit, because obviously we're accountable to weight categories.
Yeah. Cool.
But more. Some people can, and guy and girl as well, can get a bit caught up in being in a certain weight category, and that weight category provides them access to records or qualification to higher competitions and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But as I say to all my crew, it's like, unless we're chasing something like really fucking cool, like a really high level competition, or there's a real spicy record up for grabs, let's just worry about what the barbell weighs.
Absolutely.
And that's it. Like, I've personally cut weight and chased weight categories before over the years, and it sucks.
I think it does more harm than good, really, because then the shift is away from your performance and goes on to this, I need to be this certain weight. And the methods I've seen used from other coaches, which are quite prehistoric, really, to cut weight, it actually makes no sense why you would dehydrate somebody and, deplete their water stores, when we know in hypohydration that the body will only hold on to more water. So this, it doesn't make sense. A lot of this programming now, obviously being qualified and still studying, it's fascinating and also quite sad to see the extents people will go to make weight for multiple things. Even like, in boxing as well, there's that crossover.
Oh yeah, people are quite happy to start playing with things that are dangerous,
right? Exactly.
Which is not fun. And I imagine in your space, you'd probably still see from other coaching and what other athletes do, a real mix still of sort of bro advice and actual science advice. Do you find that a bit frustrating as a coach?
Pure frustration. Certainly, because you feel like you've been screaming a message for long enough for people to understand, and it's this constant. I certainly think there is this massive focus still on supplementation. Whether it's illicit or not, it's, what can I take to make me better? And I'm like, do you know what you can take is a good look in the mirror. Like, have a look at yourself, right? And like,
round of applause.
Yes, thank you. because people, here's the thing, and I posted something about this yesterday, is that people get hyper focused on the 1 to 5%, right, difference they can make, instead of like looking at the elephant in the room where you've got the 95% that you're not even doing properly. And it's
get them things right first.
well, it's kind of like, exactly, it's like, you know, putting a drop of blood into a pool. It doesn't make a difference if you're trying to supplement. I was listening to a study yesterday about carnitine supplementation for fat burning.
Yep.
And it was so interesting to hear that, like, it can't even take effect until 3 to 6 months of taking it daily. And it's just like, even then, the effect is so minute that they still haven't been able to back it. So it's like,
maybe just sleep better.
Just exactly. These are the basics. I'm having a lot of clients come from other coaches, and this is a thing, right? We're having to clean up the mess where you've got clients coming from other coaches, and you see they're on adrenal switch and they're on all these products, and they're like on 8 different supplements, and I'm like, "What's your sleep like?" "Oh, 5 to 6 hours a night." What the fuck, man? What the
Let's work on that.
Where did your coach not pick up on this? Oh, they decided to carb cycle me to manipulate my insulin, and I was like, "Do you know what's going to manipulate your insulin? It's your bloody sleep." Like. So
yeah, let's work on those big things first. But they're not as sexy to like talk about, and you know,
people crave
and
culture.
do.
They crave culture. They crave. Also, people want to say that they bought something. That I did a thing, and therefore I got a thing. So there's this and also too, I find this with training and nutrition. There's this constant, you know, is training or nutrition more important? Blah blah blah. People get very hyper focused on training because it is a very tangible thing. So it's. You know, and then it's like, mate, what have you eaten today? Oh, you know, I had a sausage roll. It's like, well, no wonder your lips are rat shit. Like, it's because people want to ignore, you know, the big thing that they know that they're avoiding. So they look for the scapegoat, they look for the cutting the corners, and I think it's only getting worse with how readily available everything is at our fingertips to these days. You know, these days where it's, you know, if you want to order something online, it's at your door in 24 hours. So
very quick.
There's this real issue in the fitness nutrition industry, and honestly for general population in everyday life, with instantaneous gratification. What can I have now?
Yeah. Everyone wants things now, right?
Correct. And we're trying to undo that. We're trying to say no. Like, you have to invest in yourself long term. You're going to have to go through the sticky bits. It's like an obstacle course. You don't get to cut to the end. You're going to have to go through all of these components to re-educate yourself and to and reinstill new habits. Like, you have to become a completely different person to understand this world.
How do those conversations go with you when you pick up a client who's maybe got some other thoughts on how they do things, whether it's from a previous coach or what they've Googled?
I shut it down pretty quickly. It's interesting. Yeah, nice. I think that, I mean, science doesn't lie. And even then science changes. And I'll always preface what I'm saying with, look, this is what we currently know. Yeah. But I also say it from a position, this is not my personal standpoint, right? This is my education. I'm not speaking. I'm not trying to talk down to you. I'm certainly not trying to say this to offend you. I'm saying this because you pay me to help you. And
listen to my fucking advice.
Right. And there's proof in the pudding as well. Like, obviously the history of how well the girls have done. It's not like I've just fluked it. But I think that Dr. Google is honestly probably not as much of a high risk as what other coaches are, but certainly
good point.
I have found that Dr. Google of late, I had a client recently that said to me, you know, I started going down the bodybuilding rabbit hole, and now I think I'll just listen to you instead of Googling things. And I said to her, you could Google all sorts of things. You could literally Google that there is an underground, you know, like conspiracy going on, and, you know, that we're all going to get overtaken by, you know,
lizard people.
Yeah, or lizard people, correct. Like,
mate, get on that Reddit thread, mate. You do a deep dive on lizard people.
But that's the thing. Like, you can find anything you want on the internet, and if you do find something on the internet, it's so difficult to tell what is a reliable source now. You know. So the best thing you can do is go to somebody who's educated, but also someone who has updated education, someone who is who's constantly learning, who has a thirst for education. So if your coach is saying, "Hey, I don't know that, but I'm going to find out from someone who definitely does," then they're a good coach. They're also practicing. I have to practice being, you know, humble in these situations because I have some gaps and some holes. I can't expertise in everything. You know, it's I'm not a rehab coach. I can't rehab injuries as well as what probably the average person can. Am I willing to accept that? Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And that sort of keeps you in your lane, in your passionate space, where you can just be more intent on that person. I think, there's not enough coaches out there that are willing to put their hand up and say, I don't know how to do that, but these few friends I've aligned with, they're
Right.
really freaking good at it.
Exactly.
We work together, so you just go see them a little bit, please.
The way I see it is kind of like if you go to a sports nutritionist who does bodybuilding and that's their thing, and and even mindset coaching is a massive part. I'm a life mentor and business coach as well, so it's all encompassed. But if you go to them, it's kind of like, and you say, look, hey, can you rehab my bum knee? But then you haven't seen them in person. You got no idea what the movement patterns look like. You wouldn't even know where to start. And you're like, we've got a knee problem. I've got no idea what's going on. I'm an online coach. This is just impossible to do online. It's kind of like someone going to a gynecologist for a brain injury. Like it doesn't, you know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. So I'm sure.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
I think I might steal that one.
It's great. Like, it's like, I do vaginas. I don't do brains, like you need to figure that out.
Exactly right. But I think there's plenty of coaches out there that try to pretend to do brains when they do vaginas or vice versa.
The same with GPs as well. And like, this is obviously, it crosses over into the medical field, is that far too many GPs are trying to go beyond the scope of a general practitioner. And it's interesting seeing how many GPs are giving nutrition advice. And oh my God.
I had one just recently who told one of our clients, without asking him any context around what he eats or if he trains, and said, you should just eat less carbs.
Far out. Oh God.
And bless this gentleman's cotton socks. He's a great member and a great client. However, I think, unfortunately, some people, when they see the word DR in front of their name, they instantaneously become expert in anything they say. And he wholeheartedly listened to that information and came in quite proudly telling us how he's now going to no longer eat carbs because he will lose weight.
Wow.
And bless his little cotton socks, after explaining to him his doctor was a fucking idiot. In no uncertain terms. And then telling him some suggestions around what he should do, he was then on board with us.
Yeah, it is this constant battle against misinformation. And, I mean, even from my own GP visits, I went to one male GP and I said I was a sports nutritionist, and he said, can you tell me what you eat because I need to lose weight? And it was just so funny because I was like, oh my God, this GP is asking me about nutrition, because they don't actually do a deep dive into nutrition. They still don't do a deep dive into nutrition where there's an understanding of anything beyond kind of chronic illness, where you'd be looking at, okay, for example, like insulin and diabetes. Cool, we understand that, right? But beyond that, like, for example, for fat loss and general population, even for performance, if beyond just normal fat loss, GPs are, they've got no idea, So, and it's, exactly, people are sent straight to their GP when they've got this problem of they immediately go to a GP. I think there has been a turn of events in the last couple of years where people are understanding that if you have a specialist issue, or if you have a specialist goal, that you need to go to a specialist for that, and you will get the best results, especially if they have a good reputation, if they are a person who comes widely recommended.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, look at GP, like they're just like everybody else. They're a great tool to have. And you look at them like you would look for someone like yourself. You get some friends around who the good one is, and their personal experiences with it, etc., etc. And like anything, just because they've got DR in front of the name doesn't mean they know everything.
No, they turned up.
Or they might actually not. They also might not be very good at what they do too.
Correct. There's a lot of people who are in the wrong professions. That's one thing I found, is that people have been forced or pressured into that, like maybe by their family. They finished their degree and that's it, So there are people who are in roles where they're teaching and they should be librarians, because they don't like kids, and they
no, they just like
it's exactly like it's. So I think that even with coaching as well, there are a lot of coaches out there who should not be coaches, because they have terrible people skills, or they
or they're just shit
or
coaches.
exactly, or they're complacent, or they they look past things, they miss things, they don't ask the right questions. So I think it's definitely, I've got a great GP now. Like, I finally found a really good female GP, and I made sure to talk GPs, but she's wonderful, and she's certainly reinstilled my faith in the medical world. So you just got to keep going. You got to keep hunting.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's super important to me. Now, towards the end of the podcast here, Mariah, I lied to you about the one question. There's actually 10
No,
more.
Jesus, that's fine. Let's go.
Yeah. Now, they're very
Let's
quick,
rattle through it.
incredibly random. I proudly come up with them every undetermined amount of months when I feel like it's time for 10 new
Okay.
ones. And you come up with the first thing that comes to your
I love-
brain. Are you
Oh,
ready?
this is going to end up bad. I've got a really,
It's going to be
I've
fun.
got
A lot
a
of
terrible
fun.
mind. I'm so sorry.
Ooh, I'm excited. Okay, you are Neo in the Matrix. You can take the red pill and find out the truth, or the blue pill and continue to not know. What would you
Definitely the red
choose?
pill.
Ooh, all in. Everyone except for one person has gone red pill so far.
Wow. Yeah, I think ignorance
Yeah.
is bliss, but at the same time, life would be pretty fucking boring if you kept your head in the shadows. Like, yeah. No thanks.
Get unplugged.
Hit me
See
with the
what's
big
happening.
shit, like always. Yeah.
Favorite lunch item?
Sandwich?
Yes.
I love a good sanger. I've been.
You know, sandwich is the greatest meal that's ever been
I just
created.
think from a convenience perspective, the other thing is I can't fit enough damn chicken on my sandwich. That protein intake.
That's why you have two sandwiches.
Yeah, I mean, or you could just treat the chicken like the bread or something. I don't know, but or two sandwiches. I didn't even think of that. Yes.
Yeah, I've coined a phrase. It's called the sandwich life.
Yes, I love it.
And I also have what I like to call the sandwich diet. If you're interested and like to subscribe to it, I'll give you free access. It's a very simple strategy of weight loss, weight gain, and maintenance. If you require to lose weight, you eat less sandwiches. If you require to gain weight, you eat more sandwiches.
I'm so sorry. That is so good.
It is the sandwich life. For those listening, I am not a qualified dietitian. I am a qualified sandwichist.
Look, I feel like this is some solid advice here. You may put me out of business with this concept,
Taking online clients now for prepping for all things bodybuilding.
Too bad if you don't like sandwiches, you're screwed.
You're out, mate. We live the sandwich lifestyle. Favorite movie setting you would like to live in?
Oh gosh. I'd say something like Miami or, just anything sunny by the beach. To be completely honest, with my introvertedness, like Castaway. Like,
oh yeah, that island with you and Wilson.
Yeah, in the middle of nowhere, no technology, in a treehouse would be great.
I like that. Best advice you've ever been given?
The best advice I've ever been. Oh God, this is actually really difficult.
Uh-oh.
I would say is to forgive yourself quickly. Yeah, like forgive yourself quickly and move forward as quickly as you can, because a lot of people get stuck on that, beating yourself up and putting yourself down. I certainly think that if you learn to forgive yourself quickly, you can achieve quite a lot in life. Yeah.
Amen. Now, if have you ever owned a pet or currently own a pet?
Yeah, oh my God, my pet history is amazing. I've had ducks, chickens.
First pet owned? Name
my first
and type.
My first pet was Snowy, and she was a white cockatiel, and she lived for 16 years.
Now, the question is, what would you like to ask your pet?
What would I like to ask my pet? As in the one that she's dead now.
Yeah, well, what would you like to ask her when she was alive? Or even dead, you can ask her now too.
Gosh, I would like to ask her if she enjoyed escaping and coming back home every time. Was that fun for her? Because it wasn't fun for me.
Now, would you rather eat a cake or a pie?
Cake. Massive sweet tooth, yeah.
Excellent. Board game or card game that you are exceptional at?
I will kick your ass in Scrabble. Like, with conviction.
No
Scrabble,
doubt.
I have a fantastic vocabulary. I was a VHA English student, so English is my forte. It is my jam.
Damn.
Yeah.
I'm not Scrabbling you. What would you like your next tattoo to be? If you have any, or if you don't have any, what would you like to get?
I'm completely naked from tattoos. I'm a bare skin. My partner is completely. Actually, I lie. My eyebrows are tattooed, but I guess that. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
But I actually never got a body tattoo because my father said to me that, he didn't want me to do that ever. And I'm a stupidly respectful, loyal person. And I just said, okay, You told
No
me from a
tattoos?
young age. And
I like that.
however, my partner has I actually have like a fetish for men with tattoos. Maybe because I was never allowed them. So my partner is like head to toe covered in tattoos, and I'm probably going to buy him another one because I just love seeing him get body art. If I was to have one, it would be a phoenix. It's always been a phoenix, a big phoenix. That
Phoenix
yeah,
massive.
because the whole rise from the ashes concept for me really hits home. Yeah,
Quite like that. Your favorite pizza?
Oh, I hate pizza. I don't like pizza. But okay,
Well,
how dare you get out of the room?
Why not?
I also don't like sushi. I'm so sorry.
Nah, sushi, but we can leave that. But pizza is odd.
No,
That's okay.
I'll tell you. I do have.
You've never had good pizza, perhaps?
I had it. There is a favorite pizza. There's actually two. The reason why I don't like pizza is because when I eat it, my stomach just hates me. I just get really, oh God, I get so bloated and it's just awful. So I guess it's more like pizza doesn't like me. It's the other way around. I like the taste of it. I just don't like what it does to my stomach. So I tend not to eat it as much, like the Domino's stuff. But if I'm making it at home, it's usually turkey, pumpkin, pine nut, and spinach. It's the strangest combination, but I just love those.
No, that's nice.
And then if it's when I was younger, like back when I have a great story. When I was 19, 18, I used to be able to eat, and this was my favorite pizza back then. It goes to show how my lifestyle has changed. A double bacon cheeseburger pizza with a triple cheese crust.
From
Domino's. So it was the highest calorie pizza that existed at the time, and I would eat an entire one in one sitting. Yeah, I can eat. Like I really can. Yeah.
I like that. Now, you've been told 1 week to live. What are you going to do?
Oh, wow. I would spend my last day lying in bed with my partner all day or lying on the beach with him all day because we don't get enough time to cuddle, and he loves a good cuddle. I'm not a massive cuddler, but I would give back to him for the final day. Every other day, I would tick something off my bucket list. And I would certainly spend an entire day with my parents. I would listen to my father playing piano because he's an incredible pianist.
Oh, nice.
And my mum, I would just sit and have a chat with her, have a coffee or have a lie down and have a chat with my mum. But every other day I would tick something off my bucket list. I would donate all of my money to charity, possibly some sort of muscular condition charity. So like obviously where people struggle to move and exercise, because I think that, or even for deaf people as well, I've always had a fascination. They've always got an amazing sense of humor. So that would be like, here, have all my money because I don't need it anymore. And I think some extreme things would certainly be like skydiving or climbing up a mountain. I wouldn't spend money. I think a lot of people think that they would go and buy something, but money can't do anything at that stage. Yeah.
Nope. I like it. That is the 10 questions. Right. Thank you very much for podcasting. It's been an exceptional amount of fun. Sorry for the tech issues we got there. We're still in the middle of one with your camera, but that's all right. We'll put a nice little photo over the top or something like that.
Photo, and it's so much better than just my face. So that's fine.
I'll get you to send me one if that's all right.
I've emailed you some bodybuilding photos
on the thing.
Yeah.
Oh, you did. Excellent. That goes to Brando. Lovely. Many appreciations. Now, for those who loved what you say and do, which will be absolutely everyone that listened to it, an opportunity to tell everyone where they find you if they would like to reach out and find more about you and what you do.
Sneaky plug.
Yeah, there we go.
You can find me on Instagram. It is Mariah, Mariah Jean, Jean Fit. So Mariah Jean Fit on Instagram. If you type Mariah Jean in, it'll come up pretty much straight away. So that's where you get to find my funny reels and lots of very brutal facts about nutrition and fitness, and obviously my client results. And then my website, mariahjeanfit.com. I've also got a podcast. I would love for you guys to tune in.
Oh.
Yeah. So
let's do it.
It's called the Fit Minds podcast, FIT_MINDS, Fit Minds podcast. And we release a new podcast every single week. So that's it's pretty cool. Would like to have some people on there soon because I'm just kind of pumping out a few solo ones, and then we'll interview quite a few people. And then on Facebook, same thing, Mariah Jean Fit. It's really not hard. You can pretty much find us on TikTok as well. We're on everything, so it's just Mariah Jean Fit. Go ham. And other than the podcast is Fit Minds. Yeah.
Sick. There we go, peeps. Find you out there. Well, again, very many thank yous for coming on. Looking forward to this coming out for everyone listening. Going to get a
Thank you
great
for
chat.
having me. I really
Thanks again.
appreciate being on. It's been a blast.
It's been
Yes.
great. We'll do it again.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very
I
much.